Hi everyone, I welcome you all to Azure Developer Community's podcast series. This is your Chavi, and I am going to take you to an amazing podcast today because today we have Manas with us. I welcome you, Manas.
Thanks for having me. Hi.
So, like when again it's Azure, it's cloud, so it's gonna be very much amazing because Manas has such an amazing experience in cloud. Currently, he is working as an enterprise cloud architect, strategy and architecture at Wipro Technologies, and in just 4 months, he'll be having a proper decade, like in at Wipro Technologies, and also previously he has some amazing experience in amazing great companies. Also, adding to it, he is also a Microsoft MCT. So he has more than 12 certifications in Azure, which is very commendable. So with that, I would be very happy to welcome you, Manas, in the today's podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry.
So first of all, as per when I was just like checking in everything, when I was seeing that okay, you have such an amazing experience. So in that case, how is your experience with cloud? Adding to it, like things have been changed so much in this whole period of time, in a decade of time. So how is it going now, and how it got started?
I would say it is going pretty well because we have. I personally started the cloud journey maybe 9, 10 years back. When the cloud itself is not known to many people, but unconsciously we were actually using a cloud platform in many other areas, especially when if you look at things like OneDrive, Gmail, right, and online documentation, right. So these are all a part of cloud, but people have not thought about like when they are managing their infrastructure, right, in their legacy environment, right, keeping their hardware stack in the on premises, right, and then realizing how they can transform, right, and considering the recent not recent, in the past as well, there are too many recessions and there are up and down in the market, right, and somehow IT industry geeks have realized keeping their infrastructure in the on-prem environment would be more costly, right. How about making them optimized and utilize only those resources and move away with the only specific things. And that is where leading cloud providers have came across and had supported them with their journey to transformation, right. And slowly they have started thinking about putting hardware stack, especially all the infrastructure in the public cloud directly. And also business spokes have realized putting them in the cloud is a great benefit, right. So personally speaking, it is all business stuff, it was happening in the background, but from the technological standpoint, it was all new topic for us, right, because what we have studied in the engineering days, right, it is not that what we see in reality, right. So for us it is a technological change as well along with the digital transformation. So which is where we have started, our employer has supported us with the learning platform, and we picked up uh, the cloud topic especially, right. And since we are part of managed service provider, we basically support different customers, in helping them and enabling them in the cloud journey. So personally I have, I was very focused, in learning those areas, and we started along with the other customers as well, onboarding them in cloud. And gradually, we and this cloud service provider also came up with a lot of certifications as well, right. And certain certifications are also aligned with the uh, roadmap which aligns with your day-to-day roles, right. It could be you can be your developer, you can be your administrator, and there are some certification like your fundamentals as well, right. We picked up with fundamentals, and 10 years back, who would have known, right, I would have become an architect now, right. It takes time. So we started with the basics, right, and then slowly we picked up into an expert areas, right? And then I basically land up in a situation where I have to manage the entire state, not a single one, right? But again, right, cloud, if you say cloud is one technology, I would say no, cloud is not a one technology. It contains many other platforms. Unlike an application layer, if you look at it, right, it is just a web page for any end user. But in the back end, right, it runs on many other stuff, right? You have hardware, you have networking, you have databases, right? Everything, right? So before I jumped into cloud area, I was also an expert in the infrastructure field as well. So apart from cloud, I also has, I would say, more than 50 other skill set that belongs to infrastructure component where I have the expertise, which and that particular expertise made me easier to start my journey in the public cloud area, and so forth. It is still ongoing.
That was really amazing. And also, I really like the way you said this thing that yes, cloud is not just one thing. That's something that is not like common to hear right now, because
Exactly.
people think that it's just a small thing and it's not that much amazing domain. No, not at all. Like when you actually put yourself like in cloud, you are like, okay, there are so many things to explore. I agree that people like you who are contributing to Microsoft Azure since 10 years, still you might be feeling you might come up with this feeling that okay, I still don't have knowledge of this particular domain. I still am lacking on these domains, because cloud is such a huge domain and it's not very much easy to move with all the trends that are coming every day. So in that case, like you have seen that how things have been changed, and also you started your journey when people didn't even knew that cloud word exist. So in that case, how you see according to you, how things have been going on in the present times in India when it comes to cloud, like how youth is reacting to cloud and how professionals are reacting to cloud right now.
See, my perspective is a little bit different because you know cloud has reached to its extreme now, and it is more advanced, right? And I would also say, right, not only in India, because I've also worked in the other countries as well. So comparing the exposure that I have, right, India, I mean, India is still on the better front when it comes to public cloud, right? Because when the cloud journey was kicked off, right, nobody has thought about, right, automation, hyper automation, robotics, right? Things like people always thought about we can do automation if we have things in the on-prem environment, but it is something a new normal for everybody. Take an example of this recent times, right? Post COVID, right? Everybody is working virtually, right? This is all an advantage of public cloud. If in today's date, if we do not have teams, things like this podcast that you're streaming, right? All are cloud based, right? Somewhere this particular stream video will land up in some storage. So you see the message is in recent times, I would say there are a lot of DevOps activities happening across, but at the same time, we as individuals have to keep in mind, right? Every technology will have its expiry date. Yeah. So so I mean it will not something like you learn that technology, and if you think I will sustain in the market for next 20 years, it is not going to be right. So after cloud, when it started, people were more excited, that there's something new in their life happening, right, which they can use. But and then again the automation stuff got integrated, right? And then again it's an add-on, right, on top of what you have learned, let's say in 1 year. It is so dynamics, right? You can't even imagine, right, how much drastic changes are happening across. Even if I don't know how much experience you have with cloud, because we called something called management portal, and every cloud provider has it, right? Even if you log in today's date, right, you see a change that there is one new brand new product introduced by any cloud provider, and then After 10 days, you see 10 different changes, being incorporated. Simple example, you take Facebook, right? uh, in next 30 days, right, you never know, right, how many different features they would introduce, right? So it is just like, you just have to, carry along with that particular part. So at the same time, when somebody was thinking, to make their career change in public cloud, yes, they can do it. But at the same time, they have to ensure, like, they have the ready to adopt mindset as well, because it is more dynamic, and it is getting into an extreme level. And I mean, anybody can think of, at any point in time, things like, artificial intelligence or stuff can take over this cloud stuff as well. Because end of the day, right, people who are running businesses, they wanted to reduce manpower, right? And cloud is one factor which is enabling them to reduce the people who are maintaining their data center in the on-prem. But on top of that, they're adding automation, right? So if you think from the career perspective, right, you just have to keep on learning and get into a new stuff, which will help you. So so it is a continuous journey, if you're thinking of, cloud in general.
That was so insightful to hear. And again, like the thoughts that you shared, that was really, really amazing. And yes, I totally agree on that point that yes, cloud is amazing domain. And with that, like, when I saw that, okay, you have so many certifications, it's been like 12 plus certifications, you are an MCT as well at the same time. So like how would you advise someone who wants to get started with his or her certifications? Because whenever I see that, okay, every time students and professionals come up to me and say, why should we have certifications? They are having this much of cost. Okay, why should I go for certification now? How it's gonna help me? And there are so many questions. So could you please put some light on certifications and also their benefits on your particular job? Because there was one time a professional said that my company is saying that you must have these many number of certifications if you want to continue your work here. So put some light on that context. What is it actually look like?
Okay, see, certification, from my perspective, I would say it's nothing. It's a piece of paper, right? Which everybody look at it. Now think about an example, right? I don't know what kind of, sports activity you do in general in your personal life, right? If I giving you an example, right? Why people go to Everest, right? So if you have, if you are interested in those sports areas, right? So take an example of Everest as well, right? So there is Everest, right? And there is another thing like Everest base camp, right? I can also go to Everest base camp and I can enjoy the views, right? But if I wanted to push myself, I can also go to Everest top as well. But if I'm climbing Everest from Everest base camp, and if I stop in the middle, right, it is not worth, right? I have to continue and reach the summit, right? So that is something which is worth, right? It is also, applicable if you're when you're studying. I mean, think about, we have all the, I would say, learning material these days in YouTube, all across internet. But again, in the end, right, you have to show up in your graduation, first year, second year, third year, right? You have to pass your board exam. So I can say that, without passing board exam, I am as good as, I'm qualified, for this subject. Or I can also say that, I'm overqualified. So from my perspective, right, certification is something, which tells you, right, tells anybody that, you have learned that technology. But it does not talks about, you have experience, right? So it is easier for anybody who, I mean, if anybody, like, team lead, your manager, or in fact your employer, to understand, you have the exposure of so and so technology. But if that certification does not align your day-to-day activities that you're doing, then it is not worth. So my suggestion here is, take an example. If you are a candidate, right, who has just started the IT career, and that too with the cloud, right, you start with basics, right? say for an example, I'm doing my cloud activities just on a L1 layer, right? Because in IT we talk about L0, L1, L2, L3, right? And there are different business unit as well. I'll take an example: infrastructure, application, middleware, database, right? So if I have the background where I'm performing, just a L0 activities, which is just a basic one, so for me fundamentals is good enough. But if I wanted to be much, if you wanted to be, let's say, learn and can spare some time, right? With that technology, I can upgrade to a next level, which belongs to my area of expertise. If I'm a part of infrastructure or some application, so gradually you climb the ladder, right? So what happens with me, in my career life is, I started my journey with infrastructure, right? But suddenly I did not land up with 12 different certification for sure, right? Even if you go and check my Microsoft transcript or my LinkedIn profile, you see a time gap, right? One certification I did in 2017, one in 2019, one in 2022, right? So there is a gap of 1 and 2 years. That means I'm working on a project, which requires a special skill set, which belongs to, let's say, Active Directory or networking, or let's say architecture, right? So gradually I have to get that experience, exposure. I have to burn my hands, right? uh, Try and understand what exists in reality, right? And then adding this certification will add value that these cloud vendors provide. Because sometimes these stuffs are works well in theory, but in practical it is totally different, right? So certification and especially your project work will complement each other, right? So my recommendation is, if somebody wanted to pursue certification in their career life, let's let them go with the experience, with the kind of background that they have from the basics. Not like, you simply land up in architecture certification, and you are just 21 year, old, I would say old guy, and you're calling yourself as a cloud architect. No, that is not how it functions, right? It takes time, it takes exposure, it takes a lot of effort basically, right? And these days, there are a lot of, I would say, uh, I mean, considering the dynamics that we have in the IT market, right? So there are different, I would say, business unit like banking, retail, manufacturing, and I would say pharmaceuticals, right? So they have the different ways of operating things, right? So that needs to be aligned. I would say, for any newbies, right? Just to think through how they're aligned. Even if you go take an example of any cloud vendor certification page, right? They have came up with a certification which aligns with the role, right? If somebody want who is a developer, right? For that particular person, administrator certification does not make sense. They would always go with the developer certification itself, right? So which will act as an enhancement, on top of what they are doing, right? So they would have a creative mindset, and they can sit with the customer and enable the customers basically, if you're writing application in today's date in so and so technology, you can do it in public cloud as well. Yeah. And whatever knowledge that he has acquired during the learning phase, right? uh, so this will push, right? And just to get the customer confidence, they would always ask, why are you saying this statement, right? Then your certification, what you have acquired, right, will gain the customer confidence on top of which, right? So that is how this particular theory works.
That was really amazing to hear, and I really like the points that you covered up in this whole certification part. And that's pretty much true that yes, it's not about just having like certifications one by one in a go and saying that yes, I'm a cloud architect. That obviously that's not how things actually work. You should have the proper experience and proper corporate exposure. So, with that, like, what are your roles and responsibilities as a cloud architect, and how it actually goes? Like, when you have started your journey of cloud, okay, so that time, how was your projects, and right now, how things have been changed? So, Can you please tell more about some roles and responsibility that has been changed in the past 10 years of yours with your domain and your position that you are currently having?
Yeah, see, unlike everybody, right? Everybody works from the basics, right? So I started my journey as engineer only. So in cloud, I have started my journey as an engineer. I used to work on stuff like builds, especially, right. My team leaders or my mentor used to tell me, this is what you have to do, because the scope was very limited, right. So my job was, just to get it done, and I don't even think about what happens once my task is done, right. It is somebody else's job to figure out, right. So that was a mindset, any project engineers has it, right. And then you get into a level 2, right. Then you get the responsibility, right. When you're distributing your task to other team members, right, because you have the visibility, right, what exactly you're expecting from your team members and how exactly it is going to benefit the customer, right. So you have the visibility what customer is expecting and what you are expecting from your team members. And then slowly when you get into a level 3, especially in the areas we talk about, consultants, right, where you sit with the customers, understand the requirements, right, and their possibilities around everything, like cost, transformation, migration, other stuff, right. You translate those requirements and cascade it to the team members, and then you basically get the visibility to feel what customer is thinking from their side, right. For them it is a money and the enrollment number, that they're going to purchase, and they would expect a team like us, right, to get that job done. And in the especially in the areas of architecture, right, it is very complicated, right, because in the end you are responsible for end to end, right. So when we get the project, right, we have to make sure that if customer is expecting us to, let's say, migrate for migration, right, you have to migrate from source A to source B. So basically, I won't say I, because along with me I have a team, right. Because architect cannot perform the end-to-end job, right. We work as a team. So we basically, right, get involved, design the landscape, and then we implement with the help of engineers, right. So again, it works as a cycle, right. You design something that gets translated to the team leader, and then the message passed to the project engineers, right. So that is how it functions. So the requirement could be anything, so the risk is high, right. And so certain times, it is not that straightforward, right. Because in the end, it is business which needs to be up and running, right. You cannot expect that Amazon dot in or Facebook, or Twitter to be down for 5 minutes, right. So everything is working on cloud. The same expectation is from any business, from an architect, to ensure that the architecture that is being worked upon or getting designed, that is resilient and I would say powerful enough to support their application on a day-to-day basis.
That was really amazing and insightful at the same time, because again, like the things that you have actually shared were very, very like deep thoughts. Okay, because ultimately, like for example, let's see, like I'm a beginner and I just want to start my cloud journey. I would be having so many questions. Okay, how it's gonna be look like, and I would also be think that okay, let's have 10 certifications and then I'm done. Then I
Hmm.
can tell everyone that I'm a cloud architect. And obviously, I might think that okay, in while I'll be working as a cloud architect, I will be working solely. Okay, but no, there's a team that goes into. There's a lot of things that you need to keep your mind while going for the certification, while starting your journey, while figuring out the resources and a lot of things. So, with that note, thanks a lot for joining in for the today's podcast, and it was really great having you. You shared such an amazing insights on cloud and also certifications, adding up to the roles and responsibilities as well. So, with that, thanks a lot for joining in today.
Thanks, Ravi. Thanks.